You know what's funny about cleaning toilets in space? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Especially when those toilets belong to beings with 3 separate digestive systems and a peculiar fondness for fermented slug juice. I should know. I've been scrubbing them for the past 2 years aboard Stellar Nexus Station 7, the supposed crown jewel of galactic diplomacy. Though personally, I think they just called it that because overpriced space mall with delusions of grandeur wouldn't fit on the brochures. Human, you missed a spot. The grating voice of Baron Kexthor of the Zaxathurian Empire echoed through the corridor, his iridescent scales shimmering with what he probably thought was regal authority. In reality, he looked like a disco ball had a baby with an iguana. I turned slowly, clutching my nanomop with practiced patience. My deepest apologies, Your Luminescence. I bowed, making sure to use his least favorite title. The Zaxthurians preferred Your Magnificence, but hey, accidents happen when you're just a lowly human janitor. The Baron's secondary breathing sacs inflated with irritation. That's Your Magnificence, you primitive primate. Oh, of course, how silly of me. Must be all these cleaning fumes affecting my simple human brain. I tapped my head with the mop handle, watching his eye ridges twitch. See, that's the thing about being at the bottom of the station's social hierarchy. You learn to weaponize people's low expectations. The Baron wasn't alone today. Behind him stood his usual entourage of sycophants, including his chief scientist Dr. Ixatal, whose tentacles were currently wrapped around a datapad, displaying what looked suspiciously like genetic sequences. Not that I was supposed to know what those looked like, of course. You know, the Baron drawled, his translator barely keeping up with his smugness. I've been thinking about your position here. You have? I'm touched, Your Magnificence, though you really shouldn't strain yourself on my account. A few of his attendants gasped. The Baron's scales shifted to a deeper purple, always a dangerous sign, but he smiled, showing rows of teeth that would make a shark feel inadequate. Oh, but I insist. In fact, I believe it's time for your promotion. The way he said promotion made my skin crawl, but I kept my expression neutral. 2 years of dealing with the station's xenopolitical drama hadn't just taught me how to clean exotic waste. It had taught me to read between the lines, and right now those lines were spelling out trouble in big, flashing letters. That's very kind of you, Your Magnificence, but I rather enjoy my current position. The view of passing ships from the waste extraction ports is simply unbeatable. Nonsense! He clapped 2 of his 4 hands together. Report to Laboratory 7 tomorrow at dawn cycle. Dr. Wixatal has something special planned for you. As they swept away in a cloud of expensive perfume and poor decisions, I couldn't help but notice Dr. Yixatal's nervous glance back at me. I'd seen that look before, usually right before something exploded in the diplomatic quarters kitchens. Well, whatever the Baron was planning, at least it would be interesting. And if there's one thing humans have proven throughout history, it's that we have a remarkable talent for turning others' bad intentions into our stepping stones. I turned back to my mop with a sigh. For now, though, these triple-function toilets weren't going to clean themselves. No matter how many times I suggested installing self-cleaning units to station management, the next day I discovered exactly what the Baron meant by promotion, and it wasn't the kind that came with a corner office and dental benefits. The annual Galactic Unity Ball was in full swing, with representatives from 37 species crowding the station's grand hall. I was there too, but not as a guest. No, I was there because somebody had to clean up when the gelatinous collective got too excited and started leaving slime trails everywhere. Ah, there's our guest of honor, the Baron's voice boomed across the hall. The music stopped. Conversations died. Even the hive mind dancers paused mid-synchronized twirl. I looked up from my mop, already knowing this wasn't going to end well. The Baron stood on the central platform, all 4 arms spread wide, his scales now a smug shade of gold. Come, come, he gestured grandly. Let us all witness the advancement of science, the generosity of the Zaxthurian Empire. Today, we elevate this simple human beyond her species' limitations. Before I could say thanks but no thanks, 2 of his guards grabbed my arms. Dr. Ixatal emerged from behind a column, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. In his tentacles, he held what looked like a very expensive, very illegal genetic modifier. Your Magnificence, I said through gritted teeth. I must respectfully decline this generous offer. Nonsense, you should be grateful. We're going to make you better than human. He paused for dramatic effect. We're going to make you useful. The gathered diplomats tittered nervously. Most species had signed the Treaty of Biological Autonomy after the Flesh Wars. What the Baron was about to do wasn't just illegal, it was the kind of illegal that started interstellar incidents. But nobody moved to stop him, nobody ever did. The genetic modifier hummed to life. Dr. Yixatal's tentacles trembled as he approached. "I'm sorry," he whispered, so quietly my translator barely picked it up. The Baron insisted on some creative modifications. The device touched my neck. Pain exploded through every cell in my body. The last thing I heard before passing out was the Baron's laughter and his voice saying, "There, now she'll be a proper servant of the Empire." I woke up in the medical bay 3 days later with a splitting headache and the distinct feeling that something was very, very different. When I tried to sit up, I accidentally punched a hole through the reinforced medical bed. Oh yes, something was different indeed. Have you ever had one of those days where you wake up and accidentally crush everything you touch? No? Just me then. The medical staff kept their distance, hiding behind energy shields while running their tests. Their scanners whirred and beeped, probably wondering what to make of my new and improved self. I couldn't blame them. I was wondering the same thing. "Fascinating," muttered Dr. Zelpar, the chief medical officer, her antennae twitching with scientific excitement. "Your muscle density has increased by 800%, neural processing speed up 1,200%, and your cellular regeneration." She trailed off, mandibles clicking rapidly. "Is that good or bad?" I asked, trying not to move too much. I'd already destroyed 3 beds, 2 diagnostic chairs, and 1 very expensive-looking medical robot that had gotten too close. "It's impossible," she replied. "The Baron's modification should have killed you. Instead," she gestured at a holographic display showing my internal scans. Even I could tell they weren't exactly standard human anymore. A sudden alert blared through the station's speakers. "Warning, computing core malfunction detected. All non-essential personnel evacuate Sector 7 immediately." That's when the second weird thing happened. Numbers, data streams, and system architectures started flowing through my mind. I could see the station's entire network, could understand its complexities with perfect clarity. The malfunction wasn't just a malfunction, it was a cascade failure waiting to happen. "I need to get to the computing core," I said, standing up and finally managing not to break anything. "Absolutely not," Dr. Zelpar protested. "You're still under observation." I was already moving, my new body responding with ridiculous speed and grace. The corridors flew by as I ran, my mind processing the station's schematics and calculating the fastest route. A task that should have taken the station's AI minutes was happening in my head in seconds. When I reached the computing core, chaos reigned. Technical crews scrambled around, trying to prevent a full system collapse. Through the transparent walls, I could see the quantum processors overheating, their containment fields flickering dangerously. "Everyone out!" I shouted, my voice carrying an authority I didn't know I possessed. Maybe it was the Baron's modifications, or maybe it was just the confidence that comes with suddenly understanding quantum mechanics on an intuitive level. "But the core," one of the technicians started, "will explode in approximately 47 seconds unless I can stabilize it. And I can't do that with all of you in here possibly getting killed." They hesitated for a moment, then fled. Smart aliens. I approached the central control panel, my fingers flying over the holographic interface. The station's systems responded to my commands like they were extensions of my own body. In my mind, I could see the problem, a cascade of quantum entanglement errors threatening to tear reality a new one. "Oh, no you don't," I muttered, diving deeper into the code. Time seemed to slow down as my enhanced brain processed everything at once. I wasn't just fixing the problem. I was rewriting the core's basic architecture, improving it, making it better than its original design. With 2.3 seconds to spare, I managed to stabilize the core and prevent what would have been a rather spectacular explosion. The cooling systems hummed back to life, and the warning lights faded to their normal operational glow. "How did you do that?" asked Chief Engineer Ninksavada, who had apparently been watching from the doorway. "Those systems are beyond even our most advanced AI." I turned to him, about to answer, when I caught my reflection in one of the inactive screens. My eyes were glowing with the same blue light as the quantum core. That was new. "Would you believe me if I said I learned it from cleaning the computer labs?" Before he could respond, another voice cut through the moment. Well, what do we have here?" Baron Kexthor stood in the doorway, his scales now an interesting shade of what I'd come to recognize as worried but trying to hide it purple. He'd probably expected his improvements to turn me into a more efficient janitor, not someone who could casually rewrite quantum computer systems. "Just doing my job, Your Magnificence," I said sweetly. "You know how it is, see a mess, clean it up. Though I have to say your genetic modifications have really improved my efficiency. Would you like a demonstration?" The Baron took a step back, his secondary breathing sacs puffing up defensively. "That won't be necessary." "Oh, but I insist," I smiled, flexing my fingers, a nearby datapad crumpled like paper in an invisible grip. "After all, isn't that what you wanted? To make me more useful?" The Baron made a sound that his translator couldn't quite interpret, and quickly excused himself, nearly tripping over his ornate robes in his haste to leave. I turned back to the chief engineer, who was staring at me with a mixture of fear and awe. "So, about that system upgrade I've been requesting for the waste management processes. It's amazing how quickly your social status can change when you save a space station from quantum annihilation. One day you're scrubbing triple-function toilets, the next you're being invited to emergency response planning meetings, though honestly the meetings were sometimes worse than the toilets. The human should oversee our new crisis management protocols," Chief Engineer Enixavada announced during one such meeting, his cybernetic eye whirring as he reviewed my handling of the computer core incident. The Baron, who had taken to attending these meetings just to keep an eye on me, made a choking sound. "A janitor? In charge of crisis management?" "Former janitor," I corrected cheerfully. "Current quantum systems expert and accidental superhuman, thanks to your generous contribution to science, Your Magnificence." Several of the station's department heads chittered in amusement. The Baron's scales flickered between embarrassed orange and angry purple. Ambassador Tix from the Silicon Consciousness Collective raised her crystalline appendage. "I support this nomination. Our predictive matrices indicate a 47% increase in station safety with her in charge." "Only 47%?" I asked, pretending to be hurt. "The remaining variables involve your propensity for sarcasm," she replied, her crystal facets twinkling with what I'd learned was their version of a smile. One by one, other species representatives voiced their support. The hive-mind dancers performed a quick interpretation of their approval through interphasic ballet. The gelatinous collective formed themselves into a thumbs-up shape, which was impressive considering they'd learned about thumbs only last week. Dr. Zelpar, who had been studying my ongoing transformation with scholarly glee, added her support. Her enhanced cognitive capabilities make her uniquely qualified. Plus, she's the only one who can interface directly with our systems while arm wrestling a malfunctioning cargo bot. That had been an interesting Tuesday. The Baron watched his influence slipping away with each endorsement. His personal guards shifted uncomfortably. They'd seen me bend Durasteel with my bare hands during last week's hull breach emergency. "This is absurd," he sputtered. "She's still technically property of the Zaxthurian Empire. The modifications were illegal under Article 7 of the Biological Autonomy Treaty," interrupted Ambassador Locks of the Jurisprudence Conglomerate, their book-like pages ruffling with righteous indignation, "which makes all claims of ownership null and void. In fact," they paused for dramatic effect, something the jurisprudence species had perfected over millennia of legal practice, "she could press charges." I leaned back in my reinforced chair, specially made after I accidentally crushed the last three, and smiled at the Baron. "But I won't. After all, your gift has made me so much more useful." His scales went pale. He remembered, as did everyone else, how I'd usefully prevented a diplomatic incident last week by calculating the exact trajectory needed to intercept a misfired plasma bolt before it hit the Etheric Empire's ambassador. With my face, the fact that I'd walked away without a scratch had certainly made an impression. "All in favor of the appointment?" Chief Nixavada called. The vote was unanimous, even from species that didn't technically have appendages to raise. As the meeting dispersed, Ambassador Tix crystallized next to me. "Your rise through our ranks has been most efficient. The Baron appears distressed." "Good," I replied, watching him hurry away with his entourage. "Maybe now he'll think twice before trying to genetically modify the cleaning staff." "He has been making calls to his homeworld," she noted, her crystalline form refracting light in what I recognized as concern. "Our monitoring systems detect increased encrypted communications." Let him plot, I said, standing up and only slightly cracking the reinforced flooring. I've got a station to protect and about 30 different species who actually appreciate having someone around who can think faster than their AIs and bench press a shuttle. 31, she corrected. The Quantum Collective just voted to recognize you as an honorary probability anomaly. I'm touched. Do I get a card? They sent it in wave function form. It both exists and doesn't exist until you try to read it. I laughed, my quantum-enhanced mind already decoding the paradoxical greeting card. Tell them I look forward to simultaneously celebrating and not celebrating with them. As we walked out, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the station's windows. My eyes were glowing again, tiny streams of data flowing through them as I automatically monitored the station's systems. The Baron had wanted to create the perfect servant. Instead, he'd created something unprecedented, a human with both the power to change everything and the sarcasm to make it entertaining. Of course, the universe has a funny way of testing you right when you're getting comfortable with your new superpowered status quo. The first warning came when my enhanced sensors detected a power fluctuation in the station's core, not the normal kind that I dealt with daily, but something deeper, more systematic, the kind of failure that makes quantum physics cry. Emergency protocols activated, the station's AI announced, its voice glitching. Catastrophic cascade imminent. Time to total systems failure, 15 minutes. Multiple alarms blared as the artificial gravity started hiccuping. In the main atrium, several hive mind dancers found themselves unexpectedly performing their routine on the ceiling. Status report, I commanded, my mind already interfacing with the station's networks. What I saw made my enhanced heart skip a beat. Someone's uploaded a quantum virus, Chief Engineer Inixavada reported, his cybernetic eyes spinning frantically. It's attacking our containment fields, our life support, everything. Through the transparent walls of the command center, I could see the Baron and his entourage being hurriedly escorted to their personal escape pods. He caught my eye and had the decency to look guilty. Your Magnificence, I called out, my voice carrying over the chaos. Would you happen to know anything about this incredibly sophisticated virus that just happens to share coding signatures with Zaxathurian military software? His scales went chalk white. I don't know what you're talking about. I must ensure my own safety. Oh, of course, I said, cracking my knuckles as displays around me flickered and died. You go right ahead. I'll just be here cleaning up another one of your messes, as usual. The station shuddered. Through my connection to the systems, I could feel the virus eating away at crucial safeguards. It wasn't just trying to shut us down, it was trying to turn the station itself into a weapon. 10 minutes to critical failure, the AI announced, now speaking in what sounded like interpretive jazz. I took a deep breath and did something probably stupid but definitely on brand for my new superhuman status. I plugged myself directly into the main computer core, not metaphorically. Actually physically merged my quantum-enhanced consciousness with the station systems. The virus was beautiful, in a destroy-everything-you-love kind of way. Complex quantum algorithms twisted through the code like deadly snakes, each one designed to trigger catastrophic failures in crucial systems. Everyone hold on to something, I shouted, both through the station speakers and my actual voice. This is going to get weird. I engaged the virus in quantum combat, my enhanced mind fighting it on levels that would make mathematics professors have existential crises. Reality itself seemed to hiccup as I forced the virus into a quantum lock, trapping it in a paradox of my own design. The station's lights strobed, gravity reversed itself 3 times. For a brief moment, everyone spoke in reverse, but I held on, channeling enough processing power through my enhanced brain to make a supercomputer look like a pocket calculator. From his escape pod's window, the Baron watched as I literally rewrote the laws of physics around the station, containing the virus and eventually crushing it into quantum oblivion. When it was over, I stood in the wreckage of the computer core, smoke rising from my now glowing skin, surrounded by holographic displays showing all systems returning to normal. Crisis averted, I announced to the stunned crowd, though I think I just accidentally solved unified field theory. Anyone got a pencil? I should probably write that down. The Baron's escape pod hadn't launched. Instead, he sat there, trapped behind its transparent hull, watching as every species on the station turned to look at him with expressions ranging from anger to outright hostility. I smiled and waved at him with fingers that still crackled with quantum energy. Don't worry, Your Magnificence. I made sure to save all the evidence of where that virus came from. You know me. I've always been good at cleaning things up. The thing about trying to destroy a space station full of diplomats is that it tends to create a lot of paperwork. The following week saw the arrival of investigators from 17 different galactic councils, 3 interdimensional tribunals, and one very confused pizza delivery guy who took a wrong turn at Beetlejuice. I sat in what used to be the Baron's office, funny how things work out, reviewing the evidence with Ambassador Locks of the jurisprudence conglomerate. The genetic modification logs alone carry a minimum sentence of 3 centuries, they said, their pages fluttering with legal excitement. And the quantum virus? That violates at least 7 major peace treaties. Only 7? He must be slipping. I leaned back in my chair, which for once didn't creak in protest. The station's engineering team had finally figured out how to make furniture that could withstand my enhanced strength. What's the Zaxathurian Empire saying about all this? They're distancing themselves rather rapidly from the Baron, Ambassador Tix chimed in, her crystalline form refracting light in what I'd learned was barely contained amusement. Apparently, they never authorized his experimental enhancement program. Through the office windows, I could see repair crews fixing the last of the damage from the virus incident. The hive mind dancers had turned the reconstruction into an interpretive performance piece about renewal and proper safety protocols. The real question, Dr. Zelpar added, her antennae twitching thoughtfully, is what to do about you. Your enhanced capabilities make you a significant political factor. Oh yes, I grinned, I'm a regular diplomatic incident waiting to happen, speaking of which. I pressed a button on my desk and the office door slid open to reveal 2 very nervous-looking Zaxathurian diplomats. The Imperial Council wishes to apologize, the first one said, scales shifting through various embarrassed colors, and perhaps discuss terms for future cooperation. Future cooperation? I raised an eyebrow. You mean now that your Baron's failed attempt to create a superservant accidentally produced someone who can rewrite quantum physics while making sarcastic comments? We prefer to think of it as an unexpected opportunity for mutual advancement, the second diplomat offered weakly. I stood up, enjoying how they both took an instinctive step back. Here are my terms: full immunity and citizenship rights for any other enhanced individuals the Baron may have created, immediate ratification of the Enhanced Beings Protection Act, and, I paused for dramatic effect, mandatory installation of self-cleaning units in all station restrooms. The diplomats blinked their secondary eyelids in confusion. Ambassador Lox's pages rustled with suppressed laughter. The restrooms, but that's non-negotiable, I finished. Trust me, after you've cleaned enough 3-species-compatible toilets, it becomes a matter of galactic security. As the diplomats hurried off to communicate my terms, Ambassador Tix's crystalline form sparkled with curiosity. You could have asked for much more. Planetary systems, fleet commands, your own space-time sector. True, I nodded, watching through various security feeds as the Baron was escorted to a high-security transport ship. He looked significantly less magnificent in standard-issue restraints, but sometimes the sweetest revenge is making sure no one else has to go through what you did. Besides, I added, my eyes glowing as I casually prevented a docking accident 3 sectors away while simultaneously upgrading the station's quantum firewalls. I think I'll have plenty of influence without needing fancy titles, after all. I gestured to a holomap showing various diplomatic missions requesting my presence at their sectors. It turns out being the galaxy's first human quantum-enhanced problem solver opens quite a few doors. Dr. Zelpar's antennae twitched. And if someone else tries what the Baron did? I smiled, letting a little quantum energy crackle around my fingers. Then they'll learn what I've known since my days as a janitor. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimated. Of course, the Baron had to try one last desperate gambit. Criminals with oversized egos are predictable that way. It happened during his transfer to the high-security transport ship. One minute he was shuffling along in restraints, the next he was holding a quantum destabilizer that his supporters had somehow smuggled past security. "Nobody move," he shrieked, his scales cycling through panic colors like a malfunctioning disco light. "I demand safe passage out of this sector." I looked up from my datapad, where I'd been reviewing plans for the new self-cleaning restrooms. "Really? This is your master plan? I'm almost disappointed." Silence there! He pointed the destabilizer at me. You think you've won? You're still just a janitor who got lucky. I sighed, putting down my datapad. First of all, it's former janitor. Second, I gestured at the weapon. Did you really think I wouldn't notice your people trying to smuggle that in? I used to clean the cargo bays, remember? I know all the hiding spots. His secondary breathing sacs inflated with confusion. But the scanners showed exactly what I wanted them to show. You're not the only one who can modify things now, your former magnificence. The quantum destabilizer made a sad little whimper and died in his hands. I may have forgotten to mention that I'd reprogrammed its power core while monitoring the security feeds. Oops. But his scales went pale. I had it all planned. Oh, I know. I stood up, casually crushing the destabilizer into quantum particles with a wave of my hand. Just like you planned to turn me into your perfect servant. How's that working out for you? The Baron made a break for it, showing surprising speed for someone in restraints. I could have caught him instantly with my enhanced abilities, but where's the fun in that? Instead, I grabbed my old nanomop from a nearby cleaning drone. Hey, Baron, you missed a spot. The mop went flying with precisely calculated force, tangling in his legs. He went down in a heap of scales and wounded pride, right into a pile of slime left by the celebrating gelatinous collective. As security moved in to restrain him, I crouched down next to his slime-covered form. You know what the funny thing is? If you'd just approved my request for those self-cleaning units 2 years ago, none of this would have happened. Guards, he tried one last time. I command you. Oh, they don't work for you anymore, I interrupted cheerfully. Actually, no one does. The Zax-Thurian Empire is quite eager to distance themselves from failed genetic experiments and attempted mass murder. But don't worry. I hear the prison facility has excellent janitorial services. As they dragged him away, Ambassador Tix crystallized beside me. A fitting end. Almost. I grinned and raised my voice. Oh, and Baron, don't forget, quantum physics waits for no one but karma. Karma takes its time and enjoys the show. Looking around at the station, my station now, in many ways, I felt a sense of satisfaction. From janitor to quantum-enhanced defender of galactic peace, all because some arrogant baron couldn't bear being sassed by the cleaning staff. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor after all, and thanks to my new abilities, I could appreciate the joke on multiple dimensional levels simultaneously. I picked up my datapad again, my eyes glowing as I connected to the station's systems. There were still toilets to upgrade, quantum physics to rewrite, and a whole galaxy of beings who needed to learn that underestimating humans was a terrible cleaning strategy. But first I had a newly vacant Baron's office to redecorate. I was thinking something in quantum blue, with self-cleaning everything.